Hi everyone, I'm Sisi Ma, Managing Director of Grow and Sell Your Biz and the host of the Capital Raising Show. This podcast will be once a week, and my hope is that by showcasing successful capital raises, you will understand how and where to raise capital and avoid making the same mistakes others have. We're extremely lucky today to have on the show Mru Patel, a business visionary, disruptor, fearless serial entrepreneur, best-selling author, and public speaker with skills and experience in IT. He has over 30 years of experience in technology and property, plus over 20 years with blue chip organizations like IBM, Sun Microsystems, and Siemens. Currently, he's the CEO and founder of eWealthTech and Let's Beat Coronavirus.org. Ms. Mru, thanks for coming on to
Hi,
the
CC.
show. How are you? Good?
Great. Nice to be with you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Yeah, really great. Yeah,
Welcome.
you have such an impressive wealth of experience in IT, in technology and property. But today, let's focus on your capital raising experiences in founding and exiting 2 funds in Europe, and also talk about a bit about what you're doing, currently with Let's Beat Coronavirus and also Be Trader. Is that okay with you?
Perfect.
Yeah? Excellent. All right. So with first,
we can take it wherever you want. You can take it wherever you want.
Excellent. Yeah, I was reading the your LinkedIn profile and got really intrigued about the super profit you got out of the 2 funds that you raised back in the 2000s. So I wondered how you actually raised the funds back in those days. What are those funds for, etc. So maybe give me some background in those.
Background to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically I was like what I call majority of the population, where I would say 95% of people are generally employed in some way, shape or form. And there's less than 5% who I would call entrepreneurs, like real entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
And if you turn that table around, only 5% or maybe 10% of those entrepreneurs as well really succeed the first time round. Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's correct.
it goes the other way. So my life started as an entrepreneur from childhood days, I guess, because my father, family, everyone around me were all entrepreneurs. So anything from your breakfast to dinner meetings to lunch things or whatever, sitting around, there'd be some talk about business or finance or something along the lines.
Right.
And
young.
so a very young age. And this was in Kenya. I was born in Kenya, by the way.
Oh,
So one thing I learned was trading, and we call it ecosystem nowadays, but how to leverage the friends, family, and the extended network when you're doing anything as an early stage. Okay. So wherever you have an early idea, that's where you soundboard with the early adopters or the early venture capitalist or angel investor, depends what level you're at, or as a seed level, right? So, even when I was 12 years old, I was trading things from sports gear to when I finished even university, first thing I did was go out and buy property, So even though I was in the IT industry, I had a side business as an entrepreneur with a property, which then became a supermarket, which I managed during the evening times, and then had some more land next to it. And I developed another property next to it with another Chinese takeaway actually at the time, and sold that off. And it grew from there, from a very young, in my 20s, in the early 80s, mid 80s, right? So then, I was in the IT industry, as you said, with some of the biggest blue chip companies, and I worked with some of the biggest people out there without name dropping them. All the big people that you see the right in the early days, I've worked with or worked for, right? So I was always doing stocks, shares, and real estate as a hobby, passion thing. And then what I did in the .com crash. So I was in the heart of Sun Microsystems with internet and Java and all that, with several startups as a as an angel advisor or some form of an advisor or even an investor, right?
Mm.
And whilst I was doing that, so I had so many um, touch points of investments. And when the dot-com crash happened, we were all full of stock options and stocks which were not worth that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were
Yeah.
not worth that much. And that got me very bored. So I said, hang on, I've got my hobby thing
Mm.
that is kind of like returning really well.
Mm.
And I've kind of like had enough of this dual hats and dual lifestyle of being an employee at one stage, even though I ran it as my own business. So I was always a disruptor, even in the company, right? So I said, let me set up my own investment fund for real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So, I did a 8-month research into the emerging markets in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
and then rattled it all down over that 8 months to
Mm.
2 countries.
Right.
And then whilst I was still in employment, I set up an investment fund.
Mm.
So a closed fund
Yeah.
with a offshore structure. So it was a structure that was set up for investment
Mm-hmm.
into real estate types of investments,
Mm-hmm.
greenfield, brownfield type of projects.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it started. So obviously I put skin in the game. I always believe in it. If
Mm.
you don't
Yeah.
put your own skin in the game, so I
Mm-hmm.
even mortgaged my house to get
Mm.
a substantial amount to put into the fund, right?
Mm.
And then over 10%, by the way. So
Mm.
then I started the fund. It wasn't that big. The first one was about just 5 million or so,
Right.
but what we did was went to close friends, family kind of people. But then uh, I had a partner who was setting up the structures for me
Mm-hmm.
for the best jurisdictions for investments
Yeah.
into the said countries in Eastern Europe.
Mm.
And he brought in some other investors into the fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how we got the fund started.
Mm. So when did you
Does that
actually?
answer your question?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
where was?
2000.
Yeah.
That was 2003, 2004, and we invested in Bulgaria and Romania.
Okay. Wow. Bulgaria and Romania. Wow.
And that's before they had joined the EU. So
Uh-huh.
I did a very detailed research on the risks
Yeah.
before they joined the EU, plus going right down to jurisdictions,
Mm.
to uh,
Yeah.
how the notary system works, how title ownership works, how
Mm.
property prices are, what's employment, what's unemployment,
Mm.
disposable income, cost of
Yep.
this, cost of that. I went through very, very, very detailed
Right.
spreadsheet evaluation before I went to those two. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I stepped into the country. And
Right.
then I said, now I want
Yeah.
grounds on.
Yeah. Did
So
you have an in-country partner with you, or you were?
nope,
No, you didn't.
nope. I
Right.
didn't have a partner from inside the country. I had a friend that was also in UK,
Mm.
who I happened to mention this to them, who happened to be Romanian. I said, hey, by the way, I'm looking to set this up and la la
Right.
la, and I've done all this research and I think it's amazing. And
Uh-huh.
and and they said, okay, fine, let me see if I can help. And you know it
Yeah.
was not their game,
Yeah.
and it wasn't my game in
Mm.
that country.
Mm.
So I said, the way I do it is more research. So
Yeah.
went and saw hundreds of people
Mm.
in the early days, and
Yes.
then
Yes.
I left the
Uh-huh.
company. Then what I said is, look, this is it. I can't do two things together. And when
Oh,
you've
do you mean
selected people,
the IT
the
company?
day job, yeah, the day
Yeah.
job, yeah.
Right, right. So when you spoke to investors to
Yeah,
present the idea to the investors,
yeah,
that was at the stage where you actually haven't invested anything yet. It was an idea, right?
correct.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, it was not only the, so as usual. So because I was in the IT stage in sales and marketing, and I'd done hundreds of millions in deals, even
Mm,
in the IT industry. I was one of the first guys who did a PPP and PFI type of deal in those days,
mm,
in when people didn't know how to cut these kind of deals, right?
yeah, yeah.
And so I knew how to put a deal together, and I knew how to present a deal together,
Mm,
and I
yeah.
knew how to touch on what the investor is really looking for.
Mm,
So those were arranged. And then we found the first project. And
Mm.
based on that project, we did what I call an options contract. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so we put a
Yep.
small deposit as an
Yep.
option to say we want first refusal for
Mm-hmm.
this, and then we started raising the fund. And that's where I put my own skin in the game,
Yeah, yeah.
money, right?
Were you like a 20% owner, or is it like a substantial amount, or you said 10%, weren't you? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes.
So the
And
other,
then what happened is I bought the fund out.
you what? Oh, you bought it out,
I
right?
bought the fund out
Uh-huh.
and and uh, paid the investors at the time
Mm.
uh, almost 200 and something percent,
Right.
250%, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So then you still
Yeah.
made a lot more afterwards, right?
I made, well, here's the sad part of the story is I
Right.
made a lot more. I expanded the whole base to 5x of what
Right.
I'd invested.
Yeah.
Really, 5x to what I'd really invested. And I made a few silly mistakes. So I'm not shy of saying it. The
Yeah.
silly mistakes were, when you've got the tens of millions, I started giving friends, family money and doing things with them without much
Mm.
contractual leverage on them to say, if this shit hits the fan, sorry to say it,
Yeah.
what's in it from you that
Uh,
protects it? I'm putting my asset on the base. So
yeah.
we started leveraging from the banks,
Mm.
all under my asset portfolio, whilst giving people money. And then when the crisis came, they couldn't pay me back. I was constantly
Mm.
fueling and servicing the debt for at least 4 or 5 years, to a point when I couldn't service it anymore. I said, this is it. We can't come out. There were no buyers in the market to buy what we had as an asset portfolio. So
Mm.
lost it. Bottom line, lost it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
But
So that was the sad one. But
your initial
the ride,
investment
the
got
ride was good.
paid out.
The ride was good. Yeah. The
Right.
initial investment
Yeah.
is the least of the worries.
Yeah.
It was a huge, huge fun.
So in like you lost it. What lessons did you learn out of that?
Oh,
Apart
many.
from the,
So I can give a lot of, I can write books on
document
this.
everything.
The three or four major lessons in any business is, first, cash flow is king. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you don't have cash flow, people say allow for a year, 2 years, depends on the kind of business you're in, allow for that business. So in
Mhm.
real estate, it's very cyclical for 10 years. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
10, 15 years maximum, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
still cyclical, right?
Mm.
So you allow for at least half of that. And that's the sad bit. Nobody allows for.
Mm.
So second lesson is, even though I was geared only 60%,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm.
not like some crazy people who do 80, 90% gearing,
That's right.
yeah,
Mm.
the market crashed to a level which was 20 to 30%.
Wow. Wow.
So it crashed radically in
Yeah.
certain types of things, especially for land-related things. So because a lot of my portfolio was land-based, where we were going to build logistics centers or shopping malls or residential buildings or office buildings, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So even though the leverage was very small and the build-out was enormous,
Mm.
the servicing of even that portion of the land, as
Mm.
I said, I
Yeah.
started, whilst I had cash flow for 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
I was giving it out for friends, family
Yeah.
in the millions, and they couldn't pay the debt back in that 4 years, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So then it came
Mm-hmm.
tumbling down.
Yeah.
And which is a long period. And in
Mm-hmm.
the technology days, I think you need to allow for at least 2 years. If someone's in the tech space, you have to allow cash flow for at least 2 years.
Mm.
So that's one lesson. Second lesson is never loan money to friends, family, brother, sister, mothers, whoever it is,
Yeah.
without some collateral
Collateral.
and a contract.
Yes. Contract. Collateral. Yeah.
Okay.
Very much so.
Or
Yeah.
if you're going to loan it, just write it off
Yeah.
and don't say it's for business purposes.
Yeah. It's a gift.
So that's the second big lesson.
Yeah.
And the third lesson is, people say, oh, it's a booming market, bull market, or a bear market. Be prepared for a bear market all the time.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Be prepared for a bear market
Yeah.
all the time.
Right. Yeah.
So that was three big lessons. I
Very,
mean,
very good.
lots more, but those three are the
Yeah,
big ones.
I think that's a really good. I mean, those are not only applicable to property, that applies to everything,
Anything,
right?
anything,
Yeah,
anything.
exactly. I mean, cash is king, definitely. Is especially in crisis like this one right now. Yes,
Yeah,
very much so.
abs-
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's a really great story. Well, do you have a happy story to share in terms of fundraising?
Oh well, yeah. So you know, like so in all things. So my background was technology, as we said. Okay,
Yeah.
my background was also real estate investment. My background was also sales, marketing, technical things like that.
Hmm.
Public speaking, best-selling author, and all that. So I
Yeah.
said, you know, in one person to find all those experiences, not skills, experiences,
Yeah.
having made and lost tens of millions in all those areas is not easy to find. How do I take that and take it to the next level?
Yeah.
So then I got introduced to the blockchain market.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you know it well, it's full of a lot of geeks talking hash this and hash that, and
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of crypto talk. Okay, when I look at it as, if you can't solve a client's problem at his time and his space on his doorstep, you
Hmm.
can have whatever you want, it won't work, right? And you have to make it very, very, very simple. So these were the lessons from my uh, general entrepreneur background and my technology background. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, how can I create a need and thing? And I said, who's really attacked me in the past? The real estate market,
Mm-hmm.
the banks, obviously. So I had a kind of like vengeance towards the banks, all right. and then and then I said, and who are my friends? So a lot of technology contacts and all of these things, a lot of people in the public speaking domain, and a lot of investors as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, why don't I take this together and do something that will disrupt the bank? I've always been a disruptor, right? So as we said,
Yeah.
so I looked at 4 years ago, which is when eWealthTech started,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned.
Yeah.
So I looked at how to do digital online banks. And in those days, I predicted that in 5 years, 50% of a lot of the online high street banks and retail banks will close or will go digital and online somehow, or they'll die. And
Mm.
we are three years in,
Yeah.
and now with COVID, it's
Yeah.
even more so, where people have got used to doing online banking.
Mm.
And you know, if you think about it, 80% of the people who probably go into a bank or a branch,
Mm.
they just go in to do basic simple thing: deposit money, withdraw money, ask about something or the other, which can all be done online. So I said, why don't I develop this where I want to not make banking only free for the clients, I want to make it paid,
Mm.
because banks are making money on your money. You know,
Mm.
when you do a swift transfer and takes 2-3 days or whatever, or when you do certain types of transactions, they're always making money on you. And
Yep.
that's why they have thousands of people with big glass tower buildings, so many expenses, so many highly paid managers
Yeah.
and CEOs. I said, that
Hugely profitable. Yeah.
crap middle level, you need to cut cost and be ruthless. And in cutting that cost, you give it back to the client. And that's where the banks have forgotten. They've
Mm-hmm.
got to learn to give it back to the clients, the people who are paying their salaries. You
Mm.
see? So they've forgotten that, in my view. And they need to understand that they will be disrupted. So I did that, especially when they disrupted me with my callbacks and all the silly things they did in taking my property by internal bank subsidiaries who became real estate agencies who bought the thing off
Mm.
through organized auctioning, if you see what I mean, which
Yeah.
is kind of like illegal. Anyway, that's another story.
Wow.
um, so what I said is, I'm going to go out for these guys, right? So I created a wallet which was very, very disruptive, and it's gone through 3 iterations now. And by the end of this year, I will have the fully iterated type of wallet live. Okay,
Mm.
so we're doing the exchange. So I said, why are people paying Western Unions and MoneyGrams and all these guys so much money when the average person who uses it is either unbanked or underbanked, who uses that mechanism to
Mm.
transfer money back to their home country or something? And they are raping these people who are generally sending, $100, $200 back to their friends, family, to support them whilst they work like hell
Mm.
in these countries.
Yeah.
And you find the Western Union's, MoneyGrams, and I'm not scared of naming them, and in Kenya, M-Pesa, all these people take between 5, 10, 20% even,
Mm.
of the transaction fee, which is
Mhm.
absolutely ludicrous.
Yep.
When, if you think about it, what blockchain, which is why I got into it, does, and with digital currency, is the cost of transaction is really peanuts. It's
Mm.
0.001. I mean, it's like really nothing. And I said, and it's instant, and you don't have all this middleman and all that.
Yeah.
It's what I need to give to them. And then I said, hang on, I've got the client. Why don't I find a way of actually giving them money to bank with me?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the app I've developed
Right.
to
Right.
get the client to earn whilst they're your client.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
So not only free banking, but paid banking.
Mm. Great. Yeah.
So various
But-
technologies we are using to enable that as well.
yeah. So you're releasing that later this year?
Correct.
Right.
So that's the next
Great.
tech fund that I will look to raise.
Yes. We'll hear more about that,
but
right?
uh, but again, we've been funding it through ourselves at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've been self-funding. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Because if you don't show people your pain,
exactly.
then it's not going to happen.
That's right. Yeah. They want to see traction. They want to see something that's, got
Well, they want to see what pain you are going through. Anyone can do what I call the OPT, OPM. Other people's money and other people's time. Anyone can do that, right?
Mm.
But if I rarely invest in a company or a startup or anybody if I don't see what their own pain points are in their own company.
Yeah.
What do they have to lose to make this kite fly?
Mm. Yeah. That's
So that's
right.
the first thing I look at.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
you yourself have gone undergoing gone the pain. The pain, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. So I was talking to one of the other investors, and they were saying that they always look for businesses where the entrepreneur experienced the pain themselves, and they are one of
Believe
the
it.
first users of the system. Yeah. But,
Absolutely. And that's how I invest as well.
mm,
If I don't see the other person with any skin in the game from his side and he's
mm,
paid,
yeah.
forget it. He could have gold, diamonds. I don't care, because he could because he could easily lose it
Yeah.
outside his control. You
Very
see,
much.
outside their own control, they can easily lose it. And if they haven't managed money, which is where, if you look 2-3 years ago when the ICO thing started, and
Mm,
IEOs and all these different O's, I never believed in them because 80-90%, that's why they'll go. In fact,
yeah.
more than 70% have gone already.
Yeah.
It's because they've hardly managed any business. They've never failed in their life, so they wouldn't know how to pick themselves up.
Mm,
They haven't managed financial cost, sales, marketing
yeah.
themselves and
Yeah.
failed. I
Mm,
keep saying the word failed because
yep.
until you haven't failed and lost it,
Mm, yep.
it's very difficult to learn those lessons.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Very difficult to learn those lessons. So
Yeah.
no one can teach you that, really.
Yeah. And you failed, but you learn from it and you
And
restarted.
you bounce
Yeah.
back, right?
Bounce back. Yeah, exactly. Well,
And most of the biggest entrepreneurs out there in the world, no matter who it is, they've
mm,
all been through that themselves,
that's right. Yep.
and
Yep.
I've met a lot of these guys. Yeah.
You heard about Jack Ma being one of the top
Yeah.
three going for KFC, and he's the only one
Yeah.
that got rejected. Yes.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I was in the Silicon Valley with the Scott McNeelys and
Mm,
all these people that you hear about, Larry Ellison's and all these people, including Steve Jobs, right? So having worked for with all these people, people's story, what pain points they went through as well. And
mm,
these were the innovators of our time in the tech space, which we are still
mm.
experiencing 25
Yep.
years later, right? Or
Yep.
30 years later,
Yeah.
right?
Very much so. Great. Oh well, thanks for that. Did you want to talk about Let's Beat Coronavirus.org? That's
Yeah,
very exciting
sure.
right now.
So again, I have a thing that, give back to the community 10-20% of your time, because, it'll come back to you some other way, but don't expect it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Don't expect it.
Yeah.
So charities, community help, public speaking, I do a lot of that. to help people as well through
Mm.
books or speaking, through my experiences of successes as well as failures, having written so many books as well myself.
Yep.
Let's Meet Coronavirus was an idea where I said, you know what? I could see this having been through two crashes, the property
Mm.
crash and the dot-com crash. In
Yep.
fact, three, even in the 80s, the property crash I went through. So three crises, three crashes I went through, right?
Yep. This is a false.
Um, this is the fourth one. Absolutely. Okay. So having been through that, said, what happened afterwards?
Mm.
And I could foresee this in January. So until January, when I was flying around left, right, and center, speaking at events, exhibitions, you
Mm.
know, over 100 flights in just 7 months up to
Yeah.
January. And then
Crazy.
when I heard about this, I said, finish, stop. This thing's going to have a huge impact. How can I help? And where is my strength? So I saw the whole thing that if people do not become digitally aware and they don't go through digital transformation, no matter who you are, no
Mm-hmm.
matter who you are, if you don't go through some form of digital transformation of your own business and
Yep.
look totally outside your box or think there is no box,
Mm-hmm.
and how you're going to create your business to survive post COVID, then it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Mm. Yep.
So I said, how can I help these sorts of people with information, content, advice? So we did a challenge. We put the movement on, and we did a 1+2 challenge where if I help one person,
Mm-hmm.
that person has to help two people, right?
Right. Yep.
And move on. So we've
Goes
collected a
viral
whole,
that way.
yeah. So we've collected a whole group of real experts from all around the world
Mm-hmm.
who are partaking in this and doing their own bit to the community, helping people without expecting any money or anything back
Right.
like that.
Yep.
Having said that, I'm now involved in a company which I am investing and going to be on a board position for them as well,
Mm-hmm.
where it's an idea where if you look at what's happening in the world now is AI, blockchain, machine learning, predictive analysis, big data, all these kinds of technology that is happening for where people will go to in the next 10, 15 years if they want to survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you think of majority of users have a car,
Mm-hmm.
majority of users hate going into a car garage and waiting in their waiting room, drinking their rubbish coffee. Okay. Just to be told, sorry, we've put it on the diagnostics and you need X, Y, and Z, and we'll fit you in next week. So you have to go there again,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then I said, look, uh, IoT is available, AI is available,
Mm.
remote diagnostics is available, big data is available, connectivity is available. Why don't we put an onboard diagnostic dongle onto a car, which exists, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
and create our own AI wallet
Mm.
where you can hook up the user with the mechanic and he can remotely see this lights come up, or by the way, you are due for a maintenance check here,
Mm.
or you've got an engine light or whatever come on. And trust
Mm.
me, I've been through so many of this. I had a Maserati, even brand new, straight from the showroom. From the first month, had no end of problem with lights. And the number of visits I've had with that car, I
Yep.
called it a Friday car. You know, I
Right.
called it a Friday car. And this was 10 years ago, 10,
Mm.
12 years ago, probably even.
Yep. Yep.
2007,
Mm.
2007. Oh my
Mm.
God, 13 years ago. All right. So even in that Maserati, even though it was brand new and a very expensive car, it was constantly going to the garage
Yep.
with some light problem or the other. And all they did was they put this thing on the onboard dashboard, open up the laptop. Oh, this is wrong. They reset it and send you back
And you
and
can do it yourself,
waste
right?
your time.
You had that.
No, you don't need to do it yourself. So
Yeah.
what we've got now is an app with an OBD thing that plugs into your car,
Mm.
and you will be able to diagnose not only your car through the app, but even the mechanic can look at it remotely and reset things that could be reset, or you could reset some of it. And better still, your car will have a history, service history. It
Yep.
will have
Mm.
various other records of where you've come from, where you've been, And you could now hook up with insurance companies, loan management. So we've built all this already in the wallet as a prototype now, and we are now going to launch that for investment round. So the mechanic or the user can take out targeted insurance based on his user profile and driving, because it will know about your driving as well, right the way through to car sales, because you'll know whether the car's history has been. So you don't need to, worry about someone's forged the mileage on it, or the service book has got stamps on it when it shouldn't have stamps on it, and things like that, right? So anyway, that's
what is that called? That's not B-Trader, is it?
it's no. So that's car AIRM, remote maintenance. So I'm a board member of that, and we're doing that.
Right.
B-Trader is what my core is, okay? And Betra, okay? Betra is what my core is, which is what I started with eWealthTech, which has now become Betra, okay? So eWealthTech and Betra now, what we are doing is we have got a crypto exchange with an intelligent wallet. We're soon going to release the next version out, but we started as a trading academy, teaching people how to trade futures, options, crypto mainly. And now we are going to do a community thing. So what I said, we want paid banking and this way of my mindset. So we want to help the people, so like eToro, for example, they have a big spread and they take a lot of commission from the clients. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm an eToro client, but I don't believe in them and their model. So what I want to do is share the profits of that exchange to anyone, not only trading, but anyone they introduce to it. So it's better than the affiliate marketing kind of rule where it, and I hate to call it network marketing, but it is a form of network marketing, but it incentivizes you to not only trade and earn from it, but also to learn from it, because we're going to do training programs and various tips and signals and things like that. So actually helping rather than saying, come and lose on our platform. You know what I mean? So it's in a way to help.
Very good.
And then the wallet that will go with it in the Q4, where you'll be able to earn money just from owning the wallet effectively.
Yeah.
Right.
Up,
So
right?
that's what we did. And again, and then AI and ML with deep learning, bot that trades on your behalf and does various arbitrage trading as well.
Right.
So that's already developed. So we just beta testing it right now.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's interesting.
So we'll be looking for funds on that. We'll come and knock on your door.
Oh, let's talk. Let's talk.
I hope we don't need it, touch wood.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mru. I think we'll probably give it a wrap now. It's almost
okay.
now. Thank you very much for all your insights today, and you provided enormous value for our listeners. So thank you to all our listeners as well. If you want to hear more about this topic or anything else, go to my website. As Sir Richard Branson said, learn to raise capital by any means necessary. So tune in again next week on the Capital Raising Show to hear another successful capital raising experience. Thank you again for listening.
Thanks, Sissy.
Thank you. Stopping.